The Committee on Property Taxes and State Tax Commission will come to order. We're going to start in a subcommittee, and just be forewarned, there's another committee that meets in this room at 10 o'clock, so we're done in an hour. We want to hear from everybody, but keep your comments short and to the point. We do want, like I said, we don't want to cut anyone off, but we do have a time limit. So we're going to start with Representative Reedy's bill, House Committee Substitute for House Bill 3035. So, Representative, make your way up, and when you're ready, you can start. Just a reminder for everyone who's going to testify on the bills to fill out a witness form and leave them on the desk. Go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chairman, Vice Chair, and other members of the committee. Thank you so much for hearing my House Bill 3035 today. For the record, I'm Roger Reedy. I represent District 57, which is most all of Benton, part of Pedestin, part of Johnson County, and west central Missouri, and we're the home of the Whiteman Air Force Base. House Bill 3035 is similar to a bill that I had in 2023, and what it does, it sets a depreciation for car values, and what this bill does, it starts with MSRP value. We take 85% off of that for a starting point, and my bill has a 12-year depreciation schedule. After the 12 years, it goes to a minimum assessed value of $300. The purpose of this bill, it creates predictability, which means that we're sure that these cars are going to depreciate each year. During the COVID thing, we had vehicle values going up on the same old vehicle, which I just don't think is a right thing to do. It's consistent. By doing this, it would be consistent across county lines and district lines, because many times out in our rural areas, you may have a district line that crosses into two different counties, and you want the different assessors doing the same thing. And it's fair. It's comparable to the way we do other personal property, such as business equipment, that starts out at an original value and has a depreciation schedule that's set up in the statute. And it protects the taxpayers from any market swings on used vehicles. And with that, I would take any questions.
Questions for the bill sponsor? I think this is one we've had quite a few times. I will make one comment. I personally think we might need to stretch it out a little bit longer, like maybe a 15-year depreciation, but we'll see what the pleasure of the committee is. But we've heard this many times in the past, discussed it in the House and the Senate. So seeing no questions for the bill sponsor, first up to testify in favor of House Bill 3035. While he's coming forward, give me an idea who else is here to testify in favor of this bill. Raise your hand. And against. Okay, all right. Go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Good morning. I'm Daniel Franks. I'm the Howell County Assessor, a position I've held for 36 years. Had the wonderful pleasure of being there, of course, when the COVID thing hit and vehicle values spiked. But that's an every year occurrence because of the fluctuation in the vehicle market. As the sponsor said, this will put stability in that. We will not see those spikes anymore. We will not see that fluctuation by the fickleness of vehicle values. I agree. We do need to stretch that out to probably 15 years. Would make more sense and protect the smaller jurisdictions from a large loss of revenue. The other thing that I would recommend that needs to be, that we make sure happens, is that the State Tax Commission needs to receive an appropriate appropriation to gather this guide and distribute it to the counties for implementation. I'm representing not only MAC, but also the Missouri Assessors Association and Howell County. Be more than happy to take questions.
Questions for this witness? I thought your senator might have a question or two, but I get Senator Hudson.
Good to see you, my friend.
to
Always
see
good to
you.
see folks from God's country up here at the state
Absolutely.
capitol. Appreciate your work on this, and appreciate what you do. And I appreciated having the opportunity to work with you when I was in the Assessors Association as well. I'm going to need you to refresh my memory on something. We may have already taken care of this, but the NADA language in statute, have we changed that yet?
Yes.
Okay. So we're right now not in a situation where the statute actually points to NADA.
No, we shouldn't be. It is opened up, made it competitive as it should be under state law and constitution, because we're not prescribing a specific guide to use.
Yeah.
That was the issue that's been there since, way too many years.
Yeah.
Took too long to get that removed.
And took it too long for us to get it fixed, but I'm glad we were able to do that. And I know you were involved in those conversations, and I appreciate your work on that.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Further questions for the witness? Seeing none, thank you for your testimony. Anyone else to testify in favor of House Bill 3035? Seeing none, anyone here to testify in opposition to House Bill 3035?
Lisa Panett, Armorvine. The reason why we're against this bill is we've ran several models, and we see that the assessments actually drive higher with this method versus using the old method. And because of that, we don't want assessments driven higher, and we don't want people to have to pay more taxes. So that's why we are opposed.
Questions for this witness? I do have one question. Did you run your model on more than just the 12 years?
No, we did not. So
Okay.
after that, obviously, it falls off. So it's the majority of other people that are paying within that 12-year period.
What I was thinking is if we stretch it out to 15 years, your model may look differently instead of a 12-year. I'm just curious. I was just curious if you'd ran other.
Yeah, and it definitely could, but within that 12-year window, those within the 12-year window will be paying more because the assessments will be driven up, and we just don't want to see that.
Did you take into consideration that that we're changing the value that we're starting with as well when you
With
did
the
your-
MSRP, absolutely,
Okay.
yes. Mhm.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Any further questions? Thank you for your testimony.
Okay.
Next up in opposition to House Bill 3035.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee. Mike Lodewigan on behalf of the Missouri Council of School Administrators. Unsurprisingly, going on record in opposition to the bill. I think the fiscal note on the current bill has $86 million hit to local funding. Regarding just the issue of funding, I think we've been fairly consistent on wanting to engage on this process, talking about things to improve the process, trying to identify best practices. But when you take a step back and look at all of the changes coming our way in regards to the foundation formula, our current budget situation, which preview of testimony in the other in the gaming committee is much worse than maybe what people even think right now with our current state budget and the House Bill 2 that's coming over. So when we start getting into cuts, I think that's where we have a position of opposing because it needs to be a part of a much bigger conversation. I know we've had that conversation, so I don't think I'm telling you guys anything that you haven't heard before. But with that, Madam Chair, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Questions for this witness? Seeing none, thank you for your testimony. Next up in opposition to House Bill 3035. Seeing none, anyone here to testify for informational purposes only for House Bill 3035?
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee. Dan Hutton, the state ombudsman for the State Tax Commission. I would love to go on record and say this was good for taxpayers, but actually it's a mixed bag. And the reason, there's basically 4 different reasons that I would put before you for your consideration. First of all, if the fiscal note is accurate, then that will shift to residential or commercial property. So you have a burden shifting effect here if this were to go into effect. Number 2 would be not all vehicles depreciate in the same manner. For example, Toyota has 10 models that are in the top 25 of holding their value best. So, and over a 5-year period, these vehicles are still worth 65 to 70% of their original value, while a Dodge car is worth about 38% over the same time period. So you're setting up a situation here where, while I agree it's consistent, I would argue that it's probably not a fair way for the basis of taxation. So in the bill itself, at the 5-year period, it has it at 52%. So the Toyota would be assessed at about 14% lower, roughly 13 to 18% lower, depending on the model, while that Dodge car would be assessed higher by roughly the same amount. So number 3, I think you need to consider historic vehicles. So, I mean, would anybody even do a historic vehicle if this bill were in effect? So, yeah, I mean, because you're bottoming out at $300, so that's something that's in statute that's assessed at 5% of its value. And finally, the last thing I would say is that we believe, the State Tax Commission believes, that this issue is on the right track already. You have the cap that the representative put in place in last year's House Bill 199 at $50,000. We would prefer to see you work in that area to maybe just lift the cap off of that. Also, we're right in the middle of the bid process for doing the guide now, and then you're going to change it on the State Tax Commission again. So those are all issues that need to be considered in this process. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Questions for the witness? Seeing none, thank you for your testimony. Anyone else for informational purposes only for House Bill 3035? Seeing none, Representative, any final comments?
I will just say thank you for hearing the bill today, and I appreciate the committee and the work they're doing. Appreciate that. Thank you.
This will conclude the hearing on House Bill 3035. And our next bill, second bill, will be Representative Taylor, and that is House Committee Substitute Number 2 for House Bill 2780. Representative, when you get settled in, you may proceed.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I really appreciate you and the committee taking this bill up. My name is Tim Taylor. I represent the 48th District, which is Cooper, Howard, Sheridan, and Western Randolph County. I have had the opportunity for the last 9 months to be steeped in property tax issues and property tax reform. The Speaker of the House set up our committee, asked me to chair it, and I asked him to give us members who are willing to work hard and do their due diligence to take on all aspects of property tax reform. He did that, and we did that, and I specifically took the show on the road over the summer, and I wanted to ensure that we got not just the urban areas but rural areas as well involved in this discussion. We went to Lebanon, Macon, St. Louis area, Kansas City area, and then we had 2 meetings.
And Representative, if you don't mind, since our time is limited, would
Yes,
you
please.
mind speaking on the bill?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
What you have before you is a culmination of what we worked on all summer, and it is the bill was developed, then it was pulled back, then it was developed again, and what you have is the Hancock provisions, Hancock corrections of what we worked on through that process. Takes in basically four items here. Number one is what I consider the foundation of everything when it comes to this, and that's the siloing of the subclasses when it comes to property tax. So currently, and I need to say this, but I assume you may know it, but currently all the 3 silos, real property, commercial property, and ag, are put together, blended when the formula is figured out whether Hancock provision should take effect, and one will water down the other. So if real property spikes and goes high, but the others go down or stay neutral, they will water down that formula, and it says that Hancock provision shouldn't take effect. Therefore, property values increase, taxes go up for the individuals. Outside of that is your tangible personal property, which is not under the umbrella of Hancock. And so what this bill whichever is less. And again, that brings in your vehicles, that property tax, which we saw COVID was mentioned earlier, COVID spike. This would limit that. The COVID spike couldn't happen because it's going to fall under that CPI or 5%, whichever's less. That's the foundation of all things. My committee, Republican or Democrat, we all agreed, and most of the people in this room agree that that is a fix that's really going to make an impact on our constituents. The second thing is currently real property tax, your homeowners are allowed that if their assessments go up greater than 15% or more, they get a personal inspection from the assessor. Commercial property doesn't have that luxury. This bill brings that into effect where commercial property then will get, if it goes above 15% or greater, that an inspection will take place of that commercial property, just like homeowners have that now. The third thing is what we commonly call the Murphy fix. It's a Hancock fix. Right now, when a new levy is added during a reassessment year, Hancock provisions don't have to take effect if it falls in a reassessment year. This bill says that rollback will take effect in a reassessment year. It also has in there a paragraph that says if a levy is voted on and that levy was temporary at the time, but it will become permanent, that the voters have to be notified that that's the case. The third thing, which will be the most contentious by those who are coming to testify, and I think not because of the intent, but because of the wording of it may be off. And I want to express to you that I'm asking you all to help me look at that. Right now, school levies are set, if they are below 275, there are about 60 schools that can roll their levy up to $2.75. That's the floor. So they're rolling up to 275, but the law says currently that they may roll back if Hancock provisions say they should. They may. So what this is doing, this is bringing those schools it's complicated, those schools whose levies are below 275 who are rolling up now to 275, this is starting them out at 275.
Representative, I need to stop you for just a second.
Yes.
We need to establish a quorum, and we had to call in our fearless
yes,
leader to
yes.
help us do that. So if we want this to count at all, we need a quorum. So Barb, would you please call the roll?
Senators Crawford.
Here.
Hudson.
Here.
Bratton. Nicola. Nirenberg. Weber. O'Laughlin.
Thank you. We do have a quorum. Appreciate you coming down. Okay, you may proceed.
Sure. So again, many schools are above that 275. Many are. There are about 60 schools that roll up to 275 when they fill out their form and it's sent to the state, and their levy is then determined from all those figures. They don't have to roll back. So those taxpayers in those school districts that are affected by that are not ever seeing a rollback, and so their taxes and assessments are always going up without any kind of rollback. There are schools still, and a few of them that are well below that. But what this is doing, and what the intent of this, and my intent completely, is to provide those taxpayers in those districts that relief. The school district will still get what they got last year, but they won't be getting a windfall every year from the assessments at the 275 rate. I don't want any school to lose money in this shift, in this move. Now that base was 275, and in the language we moved that to 220. It's confusing even to me, but we moved it to 220, and the way it's written and what the schools are concerned about is that after that first year, that it may be written that they're going to have to roll back to 220 or whatever their levy is currently. So they could lose some money, and I don't want that to happen. So I'm asking you all to look at that and see if we can't clean that up. There could be a gentleman sitting behind me. I didn't scan the room, but he came to me just days before we got this pushed out that said, "Hey, I think I know what your intent is, and I think all you have to do is just get rid of the 220." So just get rid of that 220 that's referenced in there, bring those schools up to 275 and say, you from this point forward, you need to start rolling back if Hancock provisions require it. The schools always, and I encourage them to go to their voters if they need more money and ask for that. I think by the siloing that we're doing at the very beginning, we'll give the voters over time a confidence that their taxes aren't going to be jumping around and skyrocketing to give approval to local taxing jurisdictions, to keep the services that we all require or want. I think they'll have confidence in doing that by the siloing. So I appreciate your discerning time limit because we can
I know
get
we're going to have a lot of people.
We had over 26 hours of public testimony.
Got
so,
it.
Yeah, it can go on.
Thank
so I
you.
will stop there.
Thank you, Representative. Do we have any questions from the committee? Senator Nicola.
Representative, thank you so much for all your hard work on this. I know this is an extremely complicated and very burdensome system on our citizens, and I know you're well aware of Jackson County, part of that I represent, and the disaster that we're still working through there. I like a lot of your provisions. I'll just make a comment. I think on the personal property tax, I don't think we're going far enough, to be quite honest. When we pay sales tax on it, we're already paying tax, and then we're paying taxes every year, and it possibly can go up. I think we need to put some provision in there, some kind of language to prevent it from ever going higher on personal property tax. The other thing, I have a question. So we passed SB3, that 97 counties got a couple different options. What's going to happen to those if this were to pass?
I don't think there's going to be, I don't think it's going to affect it. SB3, although the language here, the language that's currently there says, CPI or 5%, whichever's less. And SB3 says whichever's greater. So I think there's a fix out there that we've been working on that side to try to align those two. I don't know that.
Some of the counties have a freeze.
That's right. That's right. Some of them have a freeze with their 0 and freeze and 5%. So I don't know the answer to that, Senator.
Okay.
I don't
All right.
know
No, that's
that it's
okay.
going to affect.
The other thing I would mention in here is the 15% increase or physical inspections. I think that needs to be adjusted because we've seen in Jackson County, I personally got a 35% increase, but we've had 500, 900, 1,000% increase, and there's still nothing really in this bill that would prevent that, especially with the 15%. And I would like to see a cap on that cannot go higher than a 15%. But I appreciate all your hard work on this.
I agree with you on that, Senator. There's nothing in this that will keep, it
Yeah.
only says if it goes above 15.
Exactly.
It doesn't say it can't go to 50.
Yeah, and that's exactly the way it is now, and that definitely needs to be changed. So I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator.
Further questions for the bill sponsor? Seeing none. Okay, let me get an idea. How many are here to testify in favor of House Bill 2780? And how many against? All right. So we have 35 minutes. So if you will keep your we want to hear from everybody. Keep your comments concise. Go ahead and somebody come forward that wants to testify in favor. We'll get you started this way. But I want to hear from everybody. So try not to repeat what somebody else has said, and we'll try to roll through everybody. So patience and quickly, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. For brevity, I'm still the same guy I was a minute ago. I'm testifying on behalf of MAC, Missouri State Assessors Association, and my county. I appreciate the bill sponsor working with us to get this bill in the form that it's at the moment. We still have some things in there that we would like to work on, but due to brevity, I'm not going to go into detail on those. But this is a step toward common sense, good property tax policy. It's trying to put balance back into that. The issues with the increases, market dictates that. That's why the Hancock Amendment worked the way it did in original reassessment. It prevented a huge windfall or a huge increase in taxation to local citizens. Some people still went up 100, 200, 300%. It was more easy to manage back then because everybody was starting at a very low base. What's happened now is that we've seen older homes that were predominantly selling for about 20 to 30% of a new home. Now those older homes are selling within 70 to 80% of a new home to construct. That's the problem in the market. That's something that a lot of us have tried to fix, but it's extremely difficult, especially in all the counties in the state except for 2, because we do not see all the sales. A certificate of value law, there's a lot of people that oppose that, but if it's used properly for our assessment purposes only, would help smooth this out. Then we could take a long-term effect, a long-term approach to fixing this issue where we see property values escalate 1,000%. I know in my county right now, I probably have, out of 23,000 parcels, I probably have 40% of them that would be looking at that if I moved them all up to where they need to be. But we are in favor of most of the tenets of the bill, as I said, and I'll be happy to take questions.
Questions for this witness? Seeing none, thank you for your testimony. Next up in favor of House Bill 2780.
Is this on? Yep. All right. Hey, good morning, members of the committee. My name is Cole Ariola-Carr. I am the managing director of the Missouri Special Districts Association, coming in to support in favor HB2780. This is essentially a compromise taken out. It's been vetted a number of times, as we've been mentioning here. A couple of the things that we have assessed from the special districts angle, just from the siloing effect, looking through some of the models, we do not anticipate a huge, or really moreover a negligible impact when it comes to siloing out some of these rates over time for our special districts. We see that as a common sense approach to what we're working within the constructs of these reforms within the Hancock Amendment. So we appreciate that, as well as some of these truth and taxation measures that are there. I want to also note that the Missouri Special Districts Association, we are supportive of the bill on behalf of not necessarily school districts. I get that a lot. Get that a lot. Special districts and school districts too. Just want to note, on behalf of the Missouri Special Districts Association, we are representing fire districts, ambulance districts, library districts, SB 40 boards, so on and so forth. There is a whole list. So I just want to make that distinction there as well. So happy to answer any questions.
Questions for this witness? Seeing none, thank you for your testimony. Next up in favor of House Bill 2780. Seeing none, anyone here to testify in opposition to House Bill 2780?
Hello, thank you, Senate Committee, so much for your time and your willingness to care. My name is Abigail Boyle, and I was elected class president for the 9th grade class of Licking All Right School District. I am here today to speak about the House Bill 2780. My school, and like many other rural communities, our school is our heart. Citizens at Licking, and like other schools, support their staff and their students. It is for that reason that I am here today. Our current local tax levy, state minimum, is set at $2.75. We do amazing things with what we have, but next year's funding already being impacted by facing the by facing the homestead tax freeze voted in because of Senate Bill 3. Our school already has to make staff cuts for the coming school year. Lowering the minimum levy to $2.25 as proposed by House Bill 2780 will lead to even more cuts, potentially 15 teachers in our school district, which is very unfortunate because we love and appreciate every teacher at Licking, and we love them at every school. We want to support them in any way we can. And each teacher here at Licking plays very special roles in each student's life, not just their education, but their future as well. Our rural schools are the heart of our communities. Citizens at Licking and surrounding communities love our baseball games on warm summer nights. Even for myself, I love to play tennis matches and watch my team grow. We all love our sports, even our extracurricular activities and classes, such as our CTE programs, which is FFA, FCCLA, and FBLA, and our leadership programs, which is Student Council and National Honor Society, and band and choir. Without these, it would hurt the student body in many ways. The value that we get from our rural schools are in these classes and the bonds and friendships we make in them. Every person in Licking has remarkable memories in our school and wants to keep making them. I'm sure all of your best memories are in your years of high school. With all this information, I want to come here today not only on a personal level but on a factual level as well. Our district already works hard with limited resources, and we depend on both local property tax and state aid through the foundation formula to keep classrooms open, buses running, and teachers in front of students. I am worried about the House Bill 2780 because it lowers the minimum operating levy that school districts must charge to qualify for full state aid from $2.75 down to $2.20 per 100 of the assessed
value.
Yes, assessed value, sorry. Supporters say this will give homeowners tax relief, and I understand wanting to keep taxes lower for families, but rural school leaders across Missouri have warned that changes like this could lead to real funding losses for smaller districts like ours and surrounding areas. That kind of cut is huge, and it means larger class sizes, fewer teachers when people retire, cuts to sports, band, shop classes, and even trouble affording the bus that kids get to and from school. Smaller rural schools like Licking do not have large property tax bases that bigger cities have. We rely more heavily on that state aid to make sure every student gets a fair chance. I deeply care about my own school, but also I care about of the other small rural districts across Missouri. Kids in these communities deserve the same opportunities to learn, play sports, join clubs, prepare for college, and good jobs, no matter how small their town is. Lawmakers like yourselves say they do not want to hurt schools, but the concerns from rural superintendents show that there could be real shortfalls if this bill moves forward as written. We cannot balance tax relief by taking money out of the classrooms that need it most. I respectfully ask you to vote no on House Bill 2780 or to strengthen protections like adding an amendment to the bill that could include an exemption for communities under 3,000 people, or 30,000 people, sorry. That would help small rural schools to not be hurt, and our kids in small towns across Missouri deserve strong schools, not risky cuts that can make it harder for us to succeed. Again, thank you for your time and listening to a student's voice here today.
Good for you for coming up today. Very
Thank you.
good job.
Thank
Questions
you.
for the witness, Senator Hudson.
Yes, a comment and then a question. My comment is I just want you all to know she's from God's country. You're from Licking.
Thank you. It took a lot for me to come up here, I'm just saying.
You did an excellent job.
Thank
were
you.
well prepared. You spoke to the issues you were concerned about. You even offered potential solutions or where we could look to potentially address some of your concerns. And I can't speak highly enough about the way you've been prepared and the way you've represented your area here. As policymakers, this is a tough issue we're dealing with because we've got situations where we've got our rural schools. We want you to be in a situation where you are provided the education that the state owes you. At the same time, we're hearing from taxpayers on a regular basis that are concerned about how they're going to balance their budgets as well, pay the mortgage and all of that. So it is imperative that as we make these decisions, we hear from all stakeholders. We get as much information as we can, and your being here is such a vital part of that. You've done an excellent job. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Further questions for the witness? Seeing none, thank you again for coming today. Next up, in opposition to... Go ahead. Go ahead.
Good morning, Madam Chair and members of the committee. Thank you for the opportunity to testify today. My name is Dr. Jeff Macy, and I serve as the Assistant Superintendent of Business and Finance for the Ladue School District. The Ladue School District serves approximately 4,492 students within 10 municipalities that span 19 square miles. Ladue schools operate under an extreme model of local self-reliance. We are 94% locally funded, with 78% of our total revenue coming from real property taxes. We are also a hold harmless district, meaning our state funding has remained essentially flat since 2005, and our federal funding accounts for just 1% of our budget. Simply put, our schools are funded by our community for our community. Missouri's foundation formula reflects a shared responsibility for funding education. It calculates a local effort deduction using assessed valuation and a statewide performance levy of $3.43, regardless of what a district actually levies. In practice, the state assumes districts can generate revenue at that level and adjusts state aid accordingly. That structure works when policy aligns with that expectation. House Bill 2780, specifically the provision lowering the minimum state required levy from 275 to 220, creates a misalignment. It increases the gap between what the formula assumes districts can generate and what they're allowed to collect. For Ladue, this has a direct and measurable impact. Based on our modeling, the district would see an immediate reduction in 2027 of $2 million, growing to over $4 million annually within a few years, depending on assessed valuation growth. Over the next 5 years, the cumulative impact is projected to exceed $20 million. These losses are not offset by additional state or federal funding, and that is modeled out the way that Representative Taylor explained it. So that is setting the 275 in 2027 and then reducing based off of Hancock. At the same time, we are already managing the impact of Senate Bill 190, which reduced our revenue by $2.3 million this year, with an estimated 5-year impact of nearly $8.8 million. When combined with the proposed levy change, these compounding reductions place significant pressure on the district. If enacted, these changes will require difficult decisions. This may include adjustments to staffing, reductions in electives and extracurricular offerings, or scaling back innovative programs that connect students with real-world learning opportunities. These are not discussions we take lightly, as they directly affect students, family, and our community. We respectfully ask that you consider how this provision interacts with the foundation formula and its underlying assumptions. Aligning policy with the formula's expectations is critical to maintaining stabilities for districts like ours and the 62 other districts that the state levy is set at 275. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your service, and I would be happy to answer any questions.
Questions for this witness? Senator Nicola.
Thank you for coming and testifying. I have two things. One is, and this is just a comment, if we are able here in the General Assembly to pass some sort of meaningful tax reform for the citizens, the homeowners, revenues are going to go down. That's just going to be the cold fact of it. The second thing is, do you have an alternative? Do you have an alternative plan for this? And you don't have to go into it. Just you can say yes or no, and we can talk about it offline. But
I would be happy to discuss it offline, but as a district that is 94% locally funded, any adjustment or change to how that local effort is calculated is going to be detrimental to the Ladue School District.
Yeah, no, I completely understand. But it's detrimental to my homeowners too. And so we have to make some adjustments. And I'm certainly going to fight for that all the way because I have people that can't afford the taxes, and they've paid taxes their whole life to own their home. And we've got to make some reform. So unless you come back with something that we can work with, it's just a no, right? You just don't want this particular bill. Is that correct?
I would say this particular provision, I think that, there could be work that's done. I think that we could look at other provisions. I think that including educator voices in that conversation is something that we would all appreciate across the state, because I think collectively working together, we could find ways to maybe minimize impact or redirect or change or structure. So I would welcome the opportunity to continue the conversation and have a voice as an educator in that conversation.
Yeah, and I'd welcome that personally. And I've had conversations with quite a few educators because I've also been working on this for 2 years as well. And I know the representatives had many conversations with educators as well. So if you have ideas or whatever, I would love to talk to you because we've got to figure this out. Thank you.
Further questions for the witness? Seeing none, thank you for your testimony. Next up, in opposition to House Bill 2780. And I'll just remind you again, I've been lenient with the last two witnesses, but we can't have that long a testimony or we'll never get to everyone. So go ahead and proceed.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman and members of the committee. My name is Amy Quo-Hammerman. I'm here as the parent of 2 children in public schools, as a taxpayer, and also as a director on the Board of Education for Ladue Schools. You just heard from our assistant superintendent. I will not repeat what he told you and all the information he gave you about the dollars and cents impact this bill would have on our district. In fact, I think there are a lot of aspects of this bill that are really great and would increase fairness and provide the relief that a lot of homeowners do need in this state. We have great concerns about reducing the minimum levy. And part of that is because our school district, over the course of many years, worked very hard. We belt tightened. We imposed strict restrictions on spending increases in order to bring our minimum levy to the 275. And the bargain that we had with the state was that if we brought our levy to that level, we would be able to capture the growth in our assessed value without having to without having to ask our constituents to raise their taxes. We have sustained ourselves. We have demonstrated exemplary fiduciary responsibility to our parents, our families, our taxpayers, and the members of our community who don't have children in the district, to our commercial property owners. I have not heard from one member of our community tell me that 275 is too high. In fact, I have heard from many members of our community expressing concern about the impact that we've already felt from the senior property tax freeze. There's universal agreement that seniors do deserve relief. However, we have already seen a reduction in revenue for our district, and our community not only expects but demands us to continue providing the high level of education that we do. And given the amount of fiscal responsibility we have that we have exemplified, I think, as a district, this reduction in the minimum levy frankly feels like a punishment for doing our jobs really well. I don't think that that is what was intended, and while I am not a tax expert, I would encourage this committee to consider passing this bill without this reduction in the minimum levy. And thank you for your time.
Thank you for that. Questions for this witness? Seeing none. Appreciate the brevity. Next up in opposition.
Thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity to testify today. My name is Julia Voss, and I serve as the secretary on the Lindbergh Schools Board of Education. I also sit on our Finance Board Advisory Committee, and I am a parent of 3 Lindbergh students. I have Joelle Scheibel here with me. She's our CFO in case you have any very complicated finance questions. I'm here to express concern about the minimum levy provision in House Bill 2780, which would result in a significant loss of revenue for school districts like Lindbergh that currently operate at 275 or lower. Over the past few years, as residential property values increased in the Lindbergh district, we have lowered the residential tax from a high of $358 in 2011 down to $229 today, and then it rolls up to $275. The current minimum levy language allows us to responsibly adjust back to $275 so we can invest in meaningful academic programs for our students while remaining fiscally responsible. These opportunities that we've recently added include a certified nursing assistant program, an EMT partnership with our local fire department, drone aviation classes that can result in certifications, access to the St. Louis Center for Advanced Professional Studies, and early college and dual enrollment in St. Louis Community College, and a pre-K-12 agricultural STEM learning center that will connect our students to St. Louis's world-renowned agribusiness industry. That's supposed to be groundbreaking today if the weather allowed it. I don't know if it happened or not. These things are not extras. They are real career pathways and learning opportunities for students, and they offer significant college tuition savings for families. For the taxpayers, they see savings from these programs. And they are at an immediate risk if the minimum levy is lowered, as proposed in this legislation. Lindbergh Schools consistently ranks among the top performing academic schools in Missouri with one of the highest APR scores in the state. We do all this while spending only $11,800 per student. That's almost $2,000 less than the average state spending on students. That's $13,712. Our leaders have done this through disciplined financial practices that keep the budgets lean and aligned with student outcomes. And House Bill 2780 puts these amazing programs at risk. Our district has already experienced significant financial strain this year due to Senate Bill 190. We were projected to lose $500,000 from the senior tax freeze and ended up losing $1.3 million in the first year only. And so we're projected to lose 3 times as much as they told us we were going to lose. So we're already trying to sustain that blow. House Bill 2780 would compound that impact. It could result in more than $7 million in additional lost revenues. That's actually kind of on the low end due to on the repeated reassessments. Based on recent trends, we're anticipating an immediate reduction in the first rollover of a loss of $1.5 to $2.5 million from the first reassessment rollback alone. This would fundamentally disrupt our financial strategy and force difficult decisions that directly affect students. Our community trusts us to be both high-performing and fiscally responsible. We take that responsibility seriously and work to maximize every taxpayer dollar in service of student success. The proposed decrease in the minimum levy below 275 puts that balance at risk. Thank you for your time today.
Thank you for your testimony. Questions for this witness? Seeing none, and ma'am, did you want to say anything? Or you're just here as a backup? Okay, perfect.
Just in case you had financial questions.
Thank you. Next up in opposition to 2780, and we're going to start timing, and you're going to have 2 minutes. So I hate to do that, but we have only about 15 minutes left, and we'll never get through everybody. So be succinct, and you may proceed.
Thank you. I appreciate your time. I appreciate the opportunity to speak today. I very much appreciate your comments regarding having side conversations. My name is Bob James, and I'm honored to serve as the superintendent of Osage County R2 schools right here in Lynn. Serve about 600 students. Roughly 80 to 90% go to post-secondary opportunities right across the state right across the street at Missouri State Technical College. They become nurses, welders, electricians, linemen, and other skilled trades that are vital to our community's economy, Missouri's economy, and of course the economy of our nation. At the student level, what matters most, honestly, is opportunity, safety, and preparation for post-high school. And so in a district like ours, I know we've mentioned windfalls earlier. In a district like ours, a minimum operating levy district, those opportunities are built a little at a time. Each penny of assessed evaluation, I would love to be able to talk to you about millions of dollars, but that's just $9,600 for us. And our advances in AV typically get us 3 to 5 cents. And they allow us to buy things like welders, construction tools, create hands-on opportunities for students that lead directly to real jobs in Missouri. We're not talking about windfalls in the great scheme of things. And we do things like leveraging the 50-50 grants and enhancement grants to stretch those dollars, just like every Missouri family stretches their dollars at home. It also means people, when we can, we invest in salaries and benefits. 10 years ago, we were at $29,500. Today, we're at $37,000. We've been pushing some of those pennies directly towards meeting the minimum salary mandate. We still have a long way to go before becoming competitive. And at the same time, our cost continues to rise. Once we're able to achieve the minimum base salary, mandated increases will add a little over $100,000 a year at that 3%. So,
if you could wrap it up, your 2 minutes is up.
Yes. I'd be happy to have those side conversations. Please reach out to me. I'm right down the road in Lynn. If you would like to have a continued conversation, I'll open up my books for you, and we'll talk about whatever you'd like. Thank you, and if you have any questions.
Appreciate that. Questions for the witness? Seeing none, again, sorry to cut you off. Next up in opposition, I'm trying to get to everybody. Yes, and if the next person will go ahead and come up and sit, that'll save some time, I think. Go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and to the committee. My name's Aaron Dalton, Ava R1 School District Superintendent in Douglas County, God's country. I think I represent an even smaller subset of districts in the state. We're at a 275 levy with no debt service. That has been a truth for us for the entirety of my career. Much like was mentioned previously, in rural districts such as ours, we are the hub of the community. One of the largest employers, source of entertainment, and support system for so many of our families. If you come to one of our events, community support is tremendous. If we're sponsoring any type of activity, seats are full and enthusiasm is high. Now, that has not translated to a desire for increased taxes or increased levy, and we recognize that. And as a district, we have truly taken it as a source of pride to recognize that is our reality, and we have budgeted accordingly and tried to manage that in such a way and project into the future to be able to account for needed salary increases, the programs we want to offer our students. So again, that's something we've taken tremendous pride in, what we are able to offer. Specific to the reduction in the minimum levy, it is. Those cuts for us would be real, and for a district our size, a person typically represents a program, and then as it follows, we have an entire community, in our case, county. We're the only K-12 district in our county. And so just an entire group of students that an opportunity lost potentially. So just ask that that be considered. Perfect.
Thank you. Questions for the witness? Seeing none. Next up, and the next person, go ahead and come on up.
Good morning, Madam Chairman. Dr. Keith White, Assistant Superintendent of Finance and Operations for Camden School District, and just appreciate you giving us opportunity. I won't restate what everybody else has said. Just the 220 provision is probably the harshest one for us. We're 77% local, and in Lake of the Ozarks, I would say it's fair to say that we're greatly underassessed. And so with us being so local, there's pressures on both ends of that, and we want to be cognizant of that and be aware of that. I'm a taxpayer as well, and we all pay taxes, and we want to make sure that we're fair, but we try very hard to get the best value that we can. And so multiple millions of dollars of loss if we lower that 275. We use Amendment 2 to roll up to 275, and that's probably where I have the most concern, is that would drop us down to 257, which is a great increase. So for every penny, it's over $100,000. So we're talking about 2 teachers for every penny on 18 cents. And so quickly that adds up, and we have to start making some very, very hard decisions, which we all have to do, and I understand that and respect that. But we're talking about, as most schools, we are the main employer in the area, and we make sure that we take care of kids. And we cover over 708,000 bus miles all around the lake, because it's very hard to get around the lake. And we have multiple schools around the lake and multiple communities around the lake. So those transportation costs are not getting better. We get $1,104 per kid from the state, because we are hold harmless, and it costs us over $12,500 per child. So we're relying heavily on our local taxes and our local taxpayers, and we do not want to have to ask them to increase their tax levy and their tax burden to do that. So we just ask that you would address the things that we have been discussed this morning, and thank you for the opportunity.
Questions for this witness? Seeing none, good to see you, Keith.
Thank you.
Next up, in opposition. And if we have anyone over here, go ahead and come on up. How many more to testify? Okay, we're getting there.
I may be the person that Tim mentioned that we've had phone calls. Tim and I have been talking about this since the summer. One of the things that I'm Scott James. I'm the superintendent of Warsaw School District. We have about 1,150 students. As Keith said, they're in a lake. We are on the hunting and fishing side of the lake, as we call it, where Truman and Lake of the Ozarks meet. Our average teacher with salary and benefits right now is about $62,000 is what they cost us to have a teacher. One of the concerns is, and we've talked about the minimum levy, the biggest thing is how it's worded in there is not a great way. And I know Tim's noticed that and really ask you to help with that, because that is a concern. For us, if it go all the way down to 220, because we are actually the minimum levy and have been since 1993, I think. The reason why I say I think is I could not find the documents from 1993, but I did find the documents from 2001. So I know we've been at least a minimum levy probably since the inception, but at least for 20 plus years. So we live and breathe, as we talked about the assessment, we live and breathe on what our assessor does. If he doesn't assess up, we don't gain anything. If he does assess up, we gain a little bit. So it does put our assessor in a weird spot, and we've had that conversation as well. But the biggest concern is if it went down to 220, it would be a $1.2 million cut. For us, that's about 16% of our teachers. And when you start doing that, our school district, we are very rural, but we added 2 years ago another ag teacher, because that's what our kids need. More than likely what we would do is start looking at those programs that have 2 teachers, which we have 2 business teachers, 2 ag teachers. Now you're looking at, you're going to have to cut those positions in order to fill those, because that is 73% of my budget is based off of salaries and benefits. So when you're going to have to make those big of a cuts, that's where you're going to have to make the cuts, and which is unfortunate. And like I said, there's things that we can do and we can tighten the belts, but if you try to go to a $1.2 million cut in a $17 million budget, it's going to be very difficult.
Perfect timing. Questions for the witness? Seeing none, thanks for being here. Next up in opposition.
Good morning, Madam. Morning, committee members. My name is Brad Colwick. I'm the superintendent of Scott County R4. Kelly, if you don't know the official name, is Scott County R4 down in the Boot Hill. I'm here in opposition to discuss the HB2780 in the minimum levy provision. I talked to Representative Taylor the other day. My concern is that we operate at 2.75. We build budgets on 2.75 for a long time. What we're looking at based on this year's pro forma and then the estimated loss over the next assessment year is about $250,000, which equates out to about 6 teachers in our district. In navigating SB3 and navigating SB 727 with a small rural district, I'm looking at 5 to 7 teachers cut in the next 2 years if we can't come to an agreement. I totally understand the compromise we need to come up with. I also feel that our patrons, as a taxpayer in my own district and an alumni of my school district, I feel that we have benefited from the low tax rate at the operating levy of the lowest option in the state currently, and that our taxpayers have benefited from that for many years. And being part of that group of 60 of the lowest tax-paying or tax entities in the state for school districts, I believe that we need to work on that somehow, and I would be willing to have the conversation. Thank you.
Thank you for testimony. Questions for this witness? Seeing none, next up in opposition.
Good morning, Caitlin Whaley with the Missouri School Boards Association. I won't retread the ground that some of the districts have had a great job talking at individual level, but at a state level, I just wanted to offer up a couple of statistics because this doesn't happen in a vacuum, right? And education funding is under pressure from a lot of different areas. This year alone, we're seeing the Foundation Formula, Classroom Trust, and Prop C all coming in under budget. Districts are currently being paid out at a little over $200 less than the state adequacy target that was budgeted in the FY26 budget. Additionally, since COVID, we've seen transportation costs increase around the state by around 65%. Insurance costs are up 99%. Food is up 55%. Utilities up 26%. Last year alone, districts spent $80 million in excess of what they charge just to feed students in Missouri. So we appreciate the thoughtful conversations we've had with the representative, and we look forward to ongoing conversations. But just want to remind everyone that this is not happening in a vacuum. There are other financial pressures that districts are trying to weather as well, and to just keep that in mind as we go forward and think about impacts on our school districts.
Thank you for that. Questions for this witness? Seeing none, next up in opposition.
Madam Chair, members of the committee, Otto Fajan on behalf of Missouri NEA, we'd like to echo the concerns that have been raised. We've already had conversations, I believe, with everyone who's here on the panel. We hope that can continue. We're at your disposal. I'm going to impersonate a mathematician and say we believe a solution exists. We appreciate the sponsor's intent on this topic, and we're happy to try to work towards a solution. Happy to answer questions.
Questions for this witness? Seeing none, next up in opposition.
Lisa Panette with Armorvine, and our opposition is only to one part of this bill. So to be clear, it's on page 13, and we believe this could be an increase in taxation, and that's why we're in disagreement with this. It's now allowing subclass 3 real property, which is utilities, for the county with charters or St. Louis City to use the computer models and basically give a near impossible way for assessors to challenge it. This is exactly what happened in Kansas City when we saw the assessments driven up by computer models. And so that's why we're in disagreement with that portion of the bill.
Questions for this witness? Seeing none, thank you for your testimony. Next up in opposition.
Justin Gilmore, Gainesville R5, that's Ozark County. That's right, God's country again, Mr. Hudson.
That's what we get for having 2 preachers on the committee.
Yeah. Just want to bring a little bit different perspective maybe to this and offer possibly a solution. We're obviously 275 levy, no debt service, one of 16 schools in the state of Missouri that operates on that level. We also have 73% of our student body that's free and reduced lunch. So just to consider that when you make this decision, because I understand when you hear Ladue and some of these other schools that stand up here and they're operating at a different level than what a Gainesville R5 is operating at when it comes to the amount of money that they have to fund their school and their students and the resources they have. And just possibly a solution to that is consider, I know we did a 30,000, and I'm not saying it's a 30,000 residents, but possibly a peak assessed valuation, an amount of assessed valuation to where if you're over that assessed valuation, then you drop to the 220 or something like that might be an option, because, we're talking about $60 million assessed valuation compared to some of the other people that you're hearing from. So,
Thank you for that. Questions for this witness? Seeing none, thank you for your testimony. Next up in opposition. Seeing none, anyone for informational purposes only?
Good morning, Madam Chairwoman, members of the committee. My name is Arnie C. A.C. Dienoff, State Public Advocate. Back in January, on January 20th, I appeared before the House Special Committee on Property Tax Reform, and I was in favor of that legislation. It's changed, and it went to the House floor, and it was sent back to committee for more in-depth debate and more in-depth fact-finding. I believe that this is a bill that we need to have a revamped Hancock Amendment. We need to stop the windfalls for taxing entities, political subdivisions across our state. Our state is either number 2 or number 3 among our nation in the most political subdivisions. We need to do some consolidation of school districts and try to home in budgets and make more affordable means for local governmental bodies. Each year since 2008, there have been record-breaking windfalls to all political subdivisions. Each assessment year since 2008 have been history record, high assessment, record-breaking every 2-year cycle. You know what? Every political subdivision across our state has to ring in their budget, just like the state of Missouri and you're faced with over the next 2 fiscal years of reining in our budget by $2 million, or $2 billion, $1 billion in 27 and $1 billion in 2028. In my opinion, this is real and needed tax reform, and I urge this committee to come up with reasons, a good solution that'll make everybody, you can't make everybody happy across the board, but to make taxpayers whole and to make taxpayers live in a society where they can pay for their own bills. Thank you, Madam Chairwoman.
Thank you for your testimony. Questions for this witness? Seeing none, anyone else here to testify for informational purposes only?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll be brief. I'm Dr. Richard Sullivan, Superintendent of Schools, East Carter County Schools, Elsinore, Missouri. We are one of the 3 financially stressed districts in the state, and sir, I appreciate your intent for schools not to lose revenue due to this bill. We're just in a position we've been utilizing attrition, class combinations, that kind of thing for the last couple of years to get our budget in check to meet mandated salary compliance and that kind of thing. So as you're working through this bill, obviously I'm not supportive of it, but it's that piece is the fact of if our school lost money, because every $250,000 means a lot to us. So thank you.
Thank you for that. Any Senator Nicola, did you have a question or comment?
I just want to make a comment. I was exercising extreme self-discipline because I have questions and comments for everybody that came up, and I know we're running out of time, and so I withheld all of those things. And Representative, thank you again for all your work. It sounds like the public school districts love your bill, so I'm really glad about that, so thank you. This is just more of, I just wish we had a whole lot more time to discuss this because it's such an important topic. I mean, we spent 8 hours on the floor last night about hemp, and this is much more important in my estimation. But we have to find some reform. I've worked for a school district for 17 years. I understand the financial issues that are going on, but this is such a broad topic, and it's so complicated. And I hate that it's so complicated to try to even figure this out and come up with some kind of solution. solution. So I'm hopeful that we can get something done in the next 6 weeks to bring some relief to people and help still fund our local government. So thank you all for being here, too. Thank you for your testimony, taking time today. Appreciate it.
Further questions for this witness? Seeing none. Anyone else for informational purposes only? Seeing none. Representative, any quick final comments?
Yes, very quick. You would be surprised that it's not all rural school districts that are at that level. There are some very large urban schools that are at that level. You heard the quote, or I'll quote, capture the growth. If Hancock doesn't take effect, that growth means a windfall. All right, just plain and simple. The intent of this 275, moving those schools that are already going to that, is that the taxpayers won't know a difference. They will start at that. The 220 was intended to be the place at which they got to over the years, as Hancock said, roll back. Once they got to 220, then they may roll back from there. Again, talk to the gentleman who came up and said he'd be willing to talk to you. His name's Otto. Talk to him. There's a way to fix this. You saw that this is the one thing of this whole bill that is the crux. So, yeah, I appreciate y'all's efforts and look forward to seeing what we can come up with. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Representative. This will conclude the hearing on House Committee Substitute Number 2 for House Bill 2780, and we're adjourned.